All right, welcome everybody to Tavern Talk. I am GM Chavez, your host and the GM for Pristine Dreams. Tavern Talk is, of course, the companion series to Pristine Dreams, where we recap the events of each and every session as we go along. This episode specifically will be recapping the 7 parts to Session 7, which was actually 2 play sessions for us, but the first one got cut short a little bit, so we decided to kind of put 2 together. And of course, in Pristine Dreams, I play with my amazing party, who I will introduce right here. We've got Cypher playing Nick. Say hello, Cypher.
Hello.
We've got Endo plays Rinverhi.
Hello.
We've got Dusk playing Bran.
Howdy.
And of course, Juno playing Kapsia. Now, here tonight on Tavern Talk, like I said, we are going to discuss the ins and outs of the previous session of Pristine Dreams. So if you do not want any spoilers for that session, make sure to finish it completely first before you check this out. We'll put a link somewhere for you guys to go directly to that if you would like. But if you are looking to get a little more insight into the details and how things are put together behind the scenes, both from a player perspective and a DM perspective, to maybe help you improve your games or just to learn more about TTRPGs in general, that is what Tavern Talk is all about. And it's a little bit about us getting to kind of poke fun at one another and see what went right and what went wrong during our play sessions. Were we able to bamboozle one another as DM to player? We'll find out here tonight. So we're going to keep tonight's episode a little fast paced since we have a few extra episodes to kind of pack in. So we're going to kick things off, and I'm going to start with all of us arriving at Grandma's house. So after the whole incident with King Lycaon and discovering that he's a werewolf and fighting Linus and his brothers, and narrowly escaping that fight, you guys have a rush through the sewers, you run into Stavos, or a rush through the town, you run into Stavos, and Menelaus helps you guys out, and then you make your way back to Grandma's house finally, right? After stealthily making your way across Arcadia at night. So you make it out to Oddity's house, to Grandma's house out there. And of course, Nyx has Madame Rava's hood. And you've got the red hood from Madame Rava. And as you arrive there, Grandma kind of mistakes you for Rava at first and calls out to you, seeing you a hooded figure. Now, Nyx, this question's directed towards you. In that moment, what were you thinking? What were you feeling, realizing that you were kind of putting on that persona of Madame Rava? And what was your interpretation or your impression of Grandma when you met the actual Grandma versus the King Lycaon dummy Grandma?
Oh, I much preferred this grandma. She's much more grandma-like, indeed. I didn't feel anything particularly strong or interesting to report about, like, having the cloak on, and Madame or Grandma Arite, not recognizing me at first, or not recognizing Nyx at first. So nothing to report there. But, it was when, well, I might be jumping ahead, but when Arite, acted so, relieved/confused to see possibly Madame Rava.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of heartwarming. It
Yeah.
kind of softened the image of Madame Rava.
There was definitely that moment where when she realized you had a message from Rava, but were wearing the cloak, where I believe she asked you, like, does she live? Like basically saying, like, hey, I haven't seen them in forever. You come here bearing that cloak. Like, are you a good omen or a bad?
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, I think Nyx she's a very straightforward type of person. So, she answered, yeah, she answered honestly. And, you know, uh, I think that she, you know, very simply I think she gave over the cloak right away, I believe.
Well, I don't think you gave it to her. You kept it, right?
Did I keep it?
Yeah, because you wore it through the cave and everything. So
Oh, I thought I gave it to her. Well, that's kind of silly.
no,
Anyway.
it's okay. Again, the cloak itself being very symbolic, that you guys will come to find out moments later, when you inform grandma that you're like, hey, I've got more friends outside. Can they come in? And there's the big reveal that Menelaus is with you guys. At which point, grandma gets a little defensive, even brandishing a knife. Towards Menelaus, and really not a big fan of him being there in general. This kind of leads to the whole reveal that in this context, Menelaus was the big bad wolf who tried to kill both Grandma Arete and Madame Rava when Madame Rava was a young child, and is thus the responsible party for Arete and Madame Rava to have been apart their entire lives now. So Rinverhi, I know you were very close with Madame Rava, right? And
Yeah, we're besties. She loves me.
I'm pretty sure that while Dusk was messaging in the chat, the Little Red Riding Hood connection, like the minute you guys started picking up the beats of the fairy tale stories, I did want to ask you, Rinverhi, Endo,
Yeah.
what were your thoughts on that connection between Menelaus and Little Red Riding Hood, and that being woven through not only a fairy tale being told into a TTRPG, but it connecting back to the ancient Greek mythos of lycanthropy?
I thought there's a lot of fun threads there, weaving everything in together. I love that it was Menelaus who's supposed to be the big bad wolf in this Red Riding Hood tale because he's been so cool, and it's like, oh, there was a point where you weren't cool. We get it. We have our bad days. Yeah, I like all these elements, and I also like how the fairy tale aspect also tied back to being an O'Dare. And I love an overarching theme.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we see that kind of continue on from one to the other, and possibly continuing on from here. Who knows what lies ahead? But we know for right now, you guys are knee deep in this kind of Red Riding Hood connection, and also pulling in this Greek mythos along with it. So it's a pretty interesting take on it. I thought you guys would get a kick out of it. I kind of like you guys. Thank you. Being able to pick up
very flavorful.
the threads. Thank you. Brand, did you want to add anything to that? Being again that I know we're actively in the chat being like, yo, is there a Red Riding Hood connection? And it's like, I do everything I can not to validate it, but what were you thinking?
Good job.
Yeah. What were you thinking and feeling? Cause I know you were calling out a lot of the werewolf stuff early on too,
I mean, I'm a dork and I just love supernatural shit. So just seeing that woven into a story that you're telling for us is really fun and engaging, I guess would be a word to use.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing the little seeds that you were slowly planting, and I'm like, oh, I see what you're doing, Dungeon Master. I see your little game and I will play it.
No, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. But as we move on and on throughout the story, I know we're getting more and more layers of different aspects to not only your guys' characters, but the world around you and the connections in between. So I know that as we took a look at our awakened party as a whole, Grandma Oddity was able to pretty much look you guys over and call out which deity each of you serve to an extent. And that was based a lot around y'all's physical appearance and attributes and things you had with you. But most notably, I know the symbol of the Dreamwalker, like literally being on Kanopsia's back, was something that Arati pointed out like right away. Like, yo, did you just walk through the whole city with like that on your back? Like, no wonder everyone knew you were like against King Lycaon. Like, what are you doing?
I love that, just being on Kay's back just the entire time. It's like,
The
oh, no
entire
wonder
time.
no wonder that fucking guy like did what he did, you know?
Yeah.
The entire time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so
I remember there was also like one point where we're like, maybe this might cause trouble. Nah.
Why would it? No, why would it be
It won't
bad?
cause trouble. It'll
Why
cause
would it be
adventure.
Yeah.
Like, listen, Kay doesn't know that apparently this is a controversial thing to some people. He's just like, this is my cloak. It's my security blanket. What the fuck do you want from me?
Right, it has a fun little design that I don't understand, but it means everything to me.
It means everything to me because I have nothing. Nothing.
It's nothing but us, loser.
Except my sexy party members. And even then, I feel like I am doing so much and so little at the same time.
Oh boy.
Well, Juno, to that point, what were you thinking in that moment of realizing that, like, basically King Lycaon was bamboozling you guys this whole time, and probably realized that because of the symbol you were wearing? How did that make Kanopsia feel?
I've already said that Kay is very no nonsense, and he was already very spurred by King Lycaon and his betrayal. And the fact that it was just like, well, yeah, no wonder. And Kay is just like, oh, is that so? Just like rolling up his sleeves. Oh, is that so? Just like one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I don't have anything, if at all. Like and this is the only thing I have. And so apparently this is a symbol of, resistance to King Lycaon and his people. And being a target because of that, because of who he is, and him taking advantage of Kay's amnesia, it just makes him even more like invigorated, because like, oh, I'm gonna kick your ass so fucking hard. I'm gonna kick your ass. Like, this has completely spurred his want and need for justice, and by gods is he gonna get it by any means necessary now, because it's just like, oh, you think you can come into my domain and like, just because I'm stepping foot on your ground, you think you have the audacity to treat me and my companions this way? No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. I spit on you. I spit on you, and I curse you and your cow for 1,000 years. Fuck you.
So yeah, it's comical though, in a sense, to think that like you basically walked into this city and announced that you were their enemy, and then had no idea you were doing it.
No, because why the fuck would he know? He doesn't remember anything.
Oh, I love it, dude.
Yeah. Even with the shit with like, being told by like Madame Rava and Devlin, he's just like, okay, this is my sworn duty, I guess. And then it's just like, oh, apparently people don't like it when I do this. What the fuck?
So how did that go from being like at the Awakened camp before you even entered the Black Forest? It was like, wow, I found out that this symbol means so much and holds so much weight. And the first place you go with it, they're like, boo, bad guy. No, we don't like you.
It's just like, that doesn't change, Kay's feelings on, what he's doing or anything. It doesn't, sway his stance on, how, like, what he's like meant to do. Good. In fact, it's just like, he just has to be more careful with who he shows this information to and who he tells it to.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where he's just like, I might as well just fold this inside out because this is my security blanket and I don't want to wear anything else. This is my emotional support cloak, and if anyone tries to take it away from me, I will kill them.
Well,
I will kill you.
I definitely love the idea that you guys learn these tidbits along the way, and that our audience gets to learn about the history of the world and about the history of your character along the way as well. So it's kind of a journey that you all get to take together rather than just bombarding you with a bunch of information and like, oh, by the way, there are some people who will think you're an enemy because blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And you're not an agent of the Nightmare Court. It's like those things should, in a sense, seem obvious that if you're on one side, there's going to be someone on the other side. But there's no need for me to have people specifically sit you down and hold your hand through that, you know? So
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah, it makes it a lot more natural and a lot more fun for us to play through it. So
Yeah, and
organic.
easier to absorb
yes.
the information.
Yes, you digest more through experience than you do just
Yes.
verbally being told something. So
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet that this will be a lesson not soon forgotten.
Nope. No, we're gonna
Not at
put
all.
that on all of our stuff. We're just gonna copy that the bear claw symbol on our shit and be like, say something.
You're like, you may wear it on your back. Me and Bran, we got it tattooed on our face. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, just on your forehead or, you know, on your cheek. You know, just, you know, like, hey, you know, you want to say something? You want to fight about it? You want to fight about it, bro? You want to fight, bro?
Yeah,
Let's
just
go.
get out of the way and not
Move,
eat another
bitch.
trick dinner.
Yeah, move, bitch. Get out the way. Get out the way.
So I think in a way that did give the decisive advantage to your opponent, though, that like you did not realize they were your enemy, but they knew you were theirs. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
It's very upsetting to Kay because he's just like, he doesn't listen. He has so little. He does, you know, he has so little in terms of like what to work off of, you know. And I think that's one of the things that he feels very frustrated about because it's just like, I should know more about my surroundings. People keep saying I am a dream walker and I am able to do all of this stuff, but I am not innately privy to it because I don't remember anything. I feel like a newborn baby, and that's very frustrating.
To be fair, we're all babies together.
We are all babies together.
We don't know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, that does make me feel better.
You
because it's like,
super don't know, but we also
it's like you guys don't know, but Kay is just like on another level of like, oh fuck, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on?
In regards to all the party kind of getting called out, there is one aspect of it, Nyx, where you learned that Aditi recognized you as a Maenad, and you didn't really get much information about it. I believe Grandma said she wasn't super familiar with it, but how did you feel in this situation, seeing yet again your comrades all being closely connected to a deity and a situation at hand or a calling, and you being a little bit left in the dark? Did you feel like you're at least getting a breadcrumb, or is Nyx still protesting the idea, kind of not into it? Are they in denial? What do you think?
So definitely a breadcrumb that I wholeheartedly accept. Nyx, however, you're right. She's been nonplussed this whole time. She didn't even want to sit at that table with the crystal ball. She saw some shit in it, and she's still, you know, she feels like, okay, even if there was a connection to a deity, she doesn't even know if she would want to serve. So, you know, she's got her own priorities. So, you know, hearing about being a Maenad was like, it's kind of like, so of the visual would be like Adite being like, here, a breadcrumb. And then Nick staring at her and then swiping the breadcrumb from her hand onto the ground.
She is
Yeah.
so cat-coded, and I love her.
Does that give you any more desire or ambition to reveal what's going on with Nyx, or is Nyx still very much like, whatever, this is a bunch of hogwash?
I think uh I think sessions ago, Nyx was feeling left out.
Mm.
But as things have progressed, and the party is just going through the motions, she her her purpose, like, is still protect her friends. So she does what she do, and that's what she does. So I don't think she is very curious. I think maybe subconsciously she is still feeling left out, though.
Mm.
So yeah, there's that. That might be some insight that maybe I didn't role play. So yeah.
No, definitely. It comes through that Nyx is very contrary to the whole idea. But I'm curious if there's any, because I know your characters are very layered. And as much as you role play your character, you role play them in the sense that, like, we all still have to chip away to get behind the layers, just like we would a real life person. Nyx is not just going to volunteer their innermost feelings because of like the script calls for it. No, you have to work for it. You have to work to get to what Nyx is sometimes truly thinking or feeling. So I just wanted to check in on that and see what in the deepest recesses of Nyx, are they feeling that call yet? And it sounds like not quite yet, that they're still pretty much like, yeah, I was a little bit interested at first, but I'm still kind of seeing this more like this isn't for me kind of thing.
Yeah, she's still thawing out.
Gotcha. Speaking of thawing out, you guys do have the mission to relight the hearth. And with that comes talking to Grandma about the fact that they are a Vestal, one of the ancient hearth keepers who were in charge of keeping the hearths lit. You guys start to learn a little bit about Arcadia and how, this curse that's affecting them had extinguished their hearth, and the Vestal could try to relight it with you guys and hopefully get it relit and create a new connection to the deities. But Grandma does kind of reveal that there is probably going to be a price to pay. And knowing that Kapsia just got lycanthropy and the rest of you guys got a little tricked and bamboozled into eating some human flesh and getting
King
frowned
Lycion,
upon.
I am in your walls. King Lycion, I am in the walls of your palace. King Lycion!
So there's definitely feels like you guys have been working hard and putting yourself on the line at this point. But Dusk, I wanted to ask you, because Bran definitely showed some interest in that idea of what type of price there is to pay. Do you feel like you guys have kind of paid a price already for this, or are you worried of something that may be yet to come?
I mean, I, as somebody who constantly worries and is maybe just a dash little paranoid, I'm just like, okay, hi, what are you going to throw at us next? We've been through so much. We've survived it, and we will survive whatever next is for us.
Yeah, there's no doubt you guys
never let my guard down.
Yeah, there's no doubt you guys are resilient, and constantly I throw things at you guys that I think will really throw you guys for a loop, and you guys always take it on the chin and keep moving. And I like I said, I'm constantly surprised at how what I think would be the unexpected, you guys are like, I knew it, bring it on.
We're professional adventurers.
I could tell.
We're professional adventurers.
Also, we're sick of this shit. It's on! It's on! It's on!
So Dusk, given your almost preternatural gift for premonition in real life,
Aw.
what is your biggest worry in terms of relighting a hearth?
Don't tell him, Dusk. He's gonna use it. This is a fucking trick.
It's a trick.
He's like, hey guys, we're gonna have a tavern talk and talk
Would
about
you
the
like to
game.
know, Weatherboard?
Yeah, now tell me your worst fear.
All right, so you're really not going to answer, Dusk? No, you're thinking? Okay.
I was gonna say, wait, no, don't actually not tell him.
It's for the bit. Please tell us. Please.
I can almost guarantee that the stuff I have prepared is set in stone. It's not going to change based on anything Dusk says, unless it's like really good.
Oh, I figured, yeah. First two thoughts are we're going to have to find fire itself, Prometheus style.
Ah, okay.
Or we're going to have to sacrifice something in order to light it itself, like for fuel.
Okay.
And a third option, which I won't tell.
Do you want me to deafen and then you say it? No, I have to edit it anyway, so that doesn't help.
I was going to say, you're just going to hear it when you edit it. This is a trick. Stop trying to trick us.
All right. Well, keep your secrets then.
Or don't. You could say it now, because now I'm like, well, what is it? You have a secret? I want to know.
I'm going to write it down somewhere, like in a Discord place. I'm going to screenshot if it happens.
Do that.
Screenshot it, even if it doesn't. I want to know what it is.
Yeah, type it in like Notepad and then take a screenshot so it's got the date, and then we'll have it.
Yeah, there you go.
But all right, so we'll move on from what price there may be to pay to relighting the hearth, and we'll move on to the grandma and Menelaus realizing that, oh wait, because Menelaus was in recovery at the time. He wasn't at the dinner with you guys. So as you guys are kind of talking more and more about the dinner and what went down, and you explain that, like, yes, King Lycaon knows we came here for you. They're both like, what, dude? We need to get the F out of here, like, now, man. So in that moment, you guys know that the Arcadian guards are probably going to be storming this peninsula that you're on and coming to search Oddity's house. So you're trying to make a bid for how do we get back out of the city. Now, if you remember, Arcadia was kind of a large city, and you guys came from one end that was furthest from the ocean where the Black Forest is, and now you're at the ocean. So you have to move back across the city. And this became a very fun moment for me to prep as the DM and to execute, because I really had a plan for what I wanted you guys to do, but I believe wholeheartedly in player agency. So I knew that I wanted you guys to head into the sewers that we had mentioned in the previous session, because I wanted you guys to enter Kapsia Cave, which is a famous cavern in Arcadia that has a lot of mythological lore to it, and I wanted to delve into that. But I also didn't want to force you guys to do that. So it became this dance in my head of like, how can I set up this scenario to kind of get you guys to come up with the idea to go into the sewers yourselves. So this question's directly for Rinverhi, for Endo, because I know you're the one that finally prompted oh, hey, what about the sewer thing? So do you recall what exactly it was, what the situation was like that made you think of that? Was that something you had already stowed in your head from before, or did something in the moment stir that? How did that moment go for you?
It was something I already had in mind because we already went through the sewers, and it just happened to play out a similar way that going to Stavos did. It's like,
yeah, and
you put down the pieces, and I'm like, oh, obviously. And it's like, duh, sewers. We don't want people to see us. Why would, like, it's so risky going back through the city itself.
Yes.
We'll go under it.
Now, like just to refresh for the audience out there, when you guys went to Stavos's place, you guys took back alleys, but I was constantly mentioning how you were walking through sewer water that was draining into the sewers. So you guys didn't actually go into a sewer at that point, but I was constantly making references to the sewers to make sure that you guys knew there was a sewer system involved in the city.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, oh, we already know sewers exist. And it's like, it felt very obvious to be sneaky, like, oh, we go under.
Mm-hmm. So on one hand, right? So if I were to be a heavy-handed DM or a railroad style DM, it would be very easy for me to say, hey, make it a survival check, or ask one of the NPCs, as one of the NPCs have them say, oh, the city will be too dangerous. Trying to stealth through it would be too dangerous. Let's go through the sewers, and to just kind of tell you guys, or have your check be like, the only possible way to go is the sewers. But of course, not wanting to do that and being comfortable running any kind of impromptu scenario, I was very much like, hey, do your perception checks, and I will have the NPCs alert you to the dangers of each route, but not trying to make any one seem more dangerous than the other, unless you guys bring up the sewer yourselves, at which point the NPCs will say, we think that's a great idea, Yeah. So they're agreeing with your idea. And I know we mentioned this before about the Stavos thing, because it was the same scenario, right? That it was like, I wanted you guys to go to Stavos. We had laid some seeds for it. And then it was just a matter of getting you guys to kind of suggest the idea of Stavos and then running with it. So in this same instance, was this similar in the sense that it was like, oh, we thought about going into the sewers, and then, but the DM has all this shit prepped for the sewers down below. We're like, fuck, this is where they wanted us to go all along.
No, it's not a fuck. He did exactly what he wanted moment. It feels good to be on the same page.
Nice.
At least I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a little puzzle that's just like, oh, I found all the pieces and I've put them all together into the thing we should do.
Gotcha. Oh, so is it almost encouraging? Like you feel like you got the right answer?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever feel like, hey, if we'd have chosen another route, I bet things wouldn't have been as good? Or
no, not at all.
Okay.
No.
Yes.
I think like no matter what we would have decided to do, like it would have been great and fun, but it, like I said, it feels good to be on the same page.
Nice.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what we call teamwork.
Yay!
Collaborative storytelling.
Yes. Yeah.
I collaborative storytelling. I hate all of you.
Okay, liar.
I think I think it's really good when everyone kind of wants the story to go in the same direction. And then that's where it's going. Because I think we've all probably played in a game before where we wanted something to happen, where you're like, oh man, I want to go to that, ball, or that I want to go to that execution ceremony, but the GM kind of leads you another direction where like, no, you can't actually go to the cool thing that I mentioned. I want you to do something else.
That sucks. That feeling sucks.
Yeah. It's bad.
So it's nice to know that that comes off well. And so was there any suspicion leading up to that, though, that I was trying to get you guys to go in the sewers? Or how did that feel to you? Did it feel very natural?
It felt really natural to me personally. I didn't think from the start like, oh, we're absolutely going to end up in the sewers. I thought we, like that there was a possibility of different options, including getting back in that cart and riding through again. I thought that one was like the most forefront, because I was just thinking like, well, we probably should get the cart and the donkey back to Stavos.
Right.
But I like that Menelaus was like, okay, you guys go underground. I'm gonna take the cart back. Like, I'm gonna use the cart. Which also, like, I didn't say anything, but was a relief for me. I'm like, oh, thank God he can return it to stock.
They don't show up, the Arcadian guards, and they're like, they're hiding in the mule. Cut it open, or something horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Trojan mule.
Yeah, that's good to know, though, because yes, you guys were leaning heavily towards the stealthing back out of the city and using the cart to do so that you could hide underneath it and things like that. And of course, because of what had happened the night before with the first time ever fire in the city and all that, there was a lot of distraction for the guards that you would not be facing in the daytime when a full garrison was out. So, I tried to kind of make that information privy, but not seem daunting, not to try to poo-poo your idea, but just caution it. And again, which was why to me, I was like, I am not going to mention the sewers at all unless one of you does first.
Yeah.
And I think that is very difficult for GMs to do.
Yes.
It's a patient game of kind of being very subtle and not alluding to what you want. And it's doubly hard for me because I'm on camera. And I know you guys are like studying my face the whole time. I can tell, because you guys the minute I have I have one eyelash out of place. You guys are like, what was that look, Travis? What was that, dude?
What the fuck does that mean? Okay, we're not doing that now. New plan.
And I have to say that's where my years of playing D&D IRL really come in handy, because at a table in front of people, you can't flinch, you can't give it away, No. So a lot of the times I'm making fuckety faces at you guys just because I want you thinking something is more dangerous than it is, or because it's a red herring. And sometimes I make faces great. Just because what something you guys said is funny, and then it you guys start diverging from what I actually want you to do because I made a face, and then I'm like, fuck.
It's fun either way.
It is. It's super fun either way. And as a word of advice to any GMs out there, setting up this kind of subtle scenario to kind of incept your players into going the direction that you want is a great tactic. It's very fun. You can hear from the players themselves. They enjoy it because they feel like they have agency in the story now, and that they're getting the correct path and the adventure's going the way that everyone wants. But you 100% have to be prepared to be like, okay, that cavern bit is going in another session, and whatever you guys choose, I have to go with, and kind of on the fly go with something like that. So you can prep a little bit for another direction too. One thing I would not recommend, which I have done in the past as a GM, would be like, oh, fine, you want to take the cart, 2 blocks down the road, the cart breaks down, and now you have to come up with a new plan.
No.
That just becomes irritating to me. That
yeah,
you're like, dude, if you just wanted me to do that in the first place, either just fucking railroad me or let me pick. But
exactly, it's like a long drawn out no, you can't do this. Yes. That doesn't feel good.
No, then it just seems like you're being punished for not making the right choice.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's they're the only right choice is the one that everyone agrees on, and is the party does anyways. Not the GM doesn't really count, but the party goes to do something. That's the right choice. So it's not the thing that the GM prepped and is like, well, you have to do this. Nah, I don't subscribe to that. It can be in certain scenarios, but it's very nuanced. So keep an eye out for that.
Definitely nuanced. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that being said, you guys chose to escape into the sewers and enter Kapsia Cavern. And we had almost the same thing again, where I'm basically not telling you guys how to get into the cavern, knowing that there are several different ways you guys could do it. And you guys came up with some really great ideas. But of course, my kind of favorite idea is for Kapsia to use the cape that they have to transmute the stone and literally make a new entrance into the cavern. So Kapsia, Juno, how did you feel with that idea? Was that exciting to be like, hey, I get to use this cape finally? Or were you a little bit worried about how it might go? What were your thoughts in that moment?
I think I was hesitant at first because I was like, I don't want to cause it an avalanche or anything. But
that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just I was a little nervous to use it because I wasn't aware, or I was unsure of the implications of what would come afterwards, but it seemed to work out really well in everybody's favor. And I think for Kay, he was especially excited because it's like, oh, 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 this is a part of my job description. It's in the tin. So that felt really good for him, to be able to finally tap into this power. Everyone's like, you Dreamwalker, it's just like, I don't feel very Dreamwalkery, but okay. So I think for him especially, it felt really good for him to finally be able to harness that power and get it going.
That's really good to hear.
Was nervous because I didn't want to kill my friend.
No, that makes a
Thank you
lot
for
of
not
sense.
killing us.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure we all appreciate you not killing everyone, but that's
Yeah.
that's a very good thought, you know? And like, I'll be honest, that's something I hadn't even considered, that you transmuting the stone might cause the whole house to cave in, but that's a hella good point.
I mean, even if it did, we just, jump in the hole really fast. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's like when you're falling in an elevator, you just jump right
attacks.
before it hits the bottom. You're
Adventure.
fine.
Yeah.
Not really. Don't do that.
No.
But that's good. That's also good that Kapsia really feels like they're taking a little more ownership of the Dreamwalker role and just feeling it a little bit better. That's very cool. So I'm glad you got to have that little moment.
Love to see it.
Yeah. And for anyone keeping track, there will be moments like that in the future. No spoilers. All right. So the dashing into the cave below, there became this kind of moment, like Rinverhi said, where Menelaus had to say, hey, I am not going to go through the cave with you guys. I want to see if I can find out more information and figure out what's up and distract the guards. Like, can I get them to keep from searching here if I claim that I was the one who searched there already? And you guys were very astute in being like, well, wait, dude, do they know that you're on our side? Or what if they catch on that you helped us? What happens to you? You know, if they cut your arm off over BS, what are they going to do when you really betrayed them? So I thought that was a very like caring thought from all of you. But to put an even finer pin on it, Bran took the opportunity to give Menelaus an iron ring charm and kind of wish them well and hope that they would meet again. And Bran, we didn't really get into what Bran's charm meant in the moment. But Dusk, do you want to fill us in kind of behind the scenes? Like, what was the significance behind that charm?
It means they're married now.
They're engaged. Yes.
Yeah.
Please hold receiving dinner. That's an odd thing to want to tell Menelaus, but
I think it's important.
Eating's good, you know, if he wants to put that body weight back on that he lost in that arm.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
he needs to
up.
eat food to get that arm back. Yeah.
Get them gains.
Yeah. Can't make something from nothing. So yeah, dinner is really important, and that's what that ring meant.
Yep. Eating a balanced meal. Beef, definitely. Yep. Beef.
Exactly. It's like the ring is circular, so it represents like how everything is connected.
Yes.
Involving food.
We'll see each other again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also a fun piece of evidence that Menelaus is allied with us.
Yes, in case he gets busted. They're like, wait, is that one of their charms? We saw that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, Menelaus could be like, yeah, I killed them and I took their stuff. Are you proud of me, father?
what is the significance of the iron ring? And Menelaus is like, well, it's about food and beefing up and knowing that food is a circle because, you know, flies eat poo and then
circle
animals eat the bugs. And we eat the animals, and then we poo, and the bugs eat it. See, it's a circle.
Exactly. Yeah.
Circle. We eat from a plate. plates are circular.
Exactly.
Yeah, plate's a circle. Good call. Yep.
Yeah. Like forget square meals a day. It's circles. It's all about circles.
Exactly. Round meals per day.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I feel like I eat too many round meals a day because they make me round.
Relatable.
Hi, you fucking dweebs.
Hi. Oh my God.
Welcome back,
Welcome
Dust.
back.
All right. Give us the real deal here.
So, before, I'm sorry. I'm very excited to get into this because it's. I love my boy so much. Heart emoji. So the little iron ring was given to him by a very close friend named Aaron before he went off to train to become a monster hunter, and to him it's kind of he made a promise to Aaron to not become what he hunts.
Ah, okay. So again,
as well as like keeping that connection no matter how far apart they are.
So I like this because for one, you are giving this to Menelaus to be like, we're connected now, no matter how far apart we are. But you know, not only do I not want you to become the monster, but you've been doing a good job of doing that so far. And this is kind of to remind you, don't give in to being that monster. But also Bran has given away that now. So now Bran's like, now I can become the monster because I don't have the burden of the ring anymore.
I'm glad you also caught on to that.
Bran, you son of a bitch.
I see where you're going, man. I see what it is. But it's okay because now I know the power of the ring. So that's good. But all in all, a like very touching moment that I think Menelaus really didn't have time nor the bandwidth to really appreciate in the moment, other than to just be like, wow, thank you. Like, this is interesting and means a lot. But it may be the kind of thing that, much like a circle, comes round again, you know?
Yep.
It's all about circles, man.
It is.
It's all about circles.
How much of that do I leave in there now? Because now this part connects.
All of it.
All of it.
All of it.
So as you guys head into the cavern, one of my favorite things, and I think probably the favorite thing of any GM out there, happened, which is where you guys had a very easy task of climbing down into the cavern.
Oh my God.
Absolutely everyone biffs it and just eats
Yeah, we
shit.
aced it.
No, the people who who should have nailed it ate shit on it, and the two who should have had trouble were suddenly really athletic.
So there's definitely, I think, a little bit of Apollo's athleticism coming through here, but
thank you, Apollo. You always bless me, and I love you.
So Rinverhi, like you've spoken to this a few times already, but just really briefly, how do you feel like your connection to Apollo reads? Does it work through athleticism? Does it work through artistry? Like, what are you discovering the more that you play?
Well, there's absolutely the healing connection.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for Rinverhi, that's the strongest, wanting to heal and wanting to be sort of kind of like a guiding light, or at least light the way for people so they know where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
But the athleticism hasn't hit yet. I try to logic it with dexterity because Rinverhi, he is actually quite dexterous, and dex can be used for sports.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, but I think more so kind of leaning into the more performative, the performance connection, the arts.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, artistry has a very wide definition, but don't forget athleticism does as well. I mean, maybe
that's true. Yeah,
you are Apollo's chief bowler, you know.
Oh God, I hope so.
One thing
into curling.
I choked on my tea.
One thing I know you guys are probably not are Apollo's chief chicken fighting champions. So
Not yet.
after you
We
guys
just need a training montage.
after you guys get into the cavern, I know there's a little bit of discovery about what's going on, and we'll talk about that, the exploration and tension of the cavern in a minute. But really quick, I just want to jump forward to the sense of once you guys first arrived in the cave and you got a little bit laid out with the rules between the exploration that I was laying out for you guys, there was this moment where Kapsia and Rinverhi and Aditi started like a giant, like 3-person chicken fighting chain to get through an extremely shallow breadth of water. And I know Juno's having a little bit of connection issues, but we're going to see if they can power through an answer right here, because I am curious what Juno was feeling in that moment. Was there too much tension? Were you just trying to relieve some tension? Were you getting a little bit frustrated with the scenario? What was going through your head in that moment?
So I thought personally, I thought playing chicken was really funny.
Yeah.
I was really entertained by it. I think for like a couple seconds, I was like, God damn it, Kapsia, you should be better at this. But I was like, nah, I want to play chicken. So I above all, I love a good storytelling. However, I also love being fucking stupid. I love being goofy.
We're shaking hands.
Yeah.
When two people who love being stupid have an opportunity to be stupid together, we're going to be stupid.
The opportunity presented itself, and I was like, hey, guess what? Get in here. So I didn't regret it at all. I thought it was fantastic.
Oh yeah,
No.
I didn't regret it either. And like that was the place to fuck around. You
Yes.
know?
Oh yeah.
We weren't gonna do that later when it's like incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, it's like might as well get out all your sillies now
Yes.
before you get an ass whooping of the lake.
Exactly. And also
Yes.
I think Kapsia,
So that's
yeah, Kapsia I think needed the moment of levity because he's a sad boy.
Oh yeah.
He is.
Sad.
Listen, he doesn't get to have fun.
No, we're gonna have
Worried
fun more often,
about
Kapsia.
his friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kapsia deserves to have 5 minutes of, rolling around in the water.
Exactly.
For sure.
He can have that as a tribute.
Yes.
So that's good. That's good to hear, because I was a little bit worried as the GM that I was like, oh man, did I lose Juno? Are they like not enjoying this? So it's nice to know that this was more on the line of brevity than anything else. And
100%.
Yeah.
It's brevity.
Again, the reason I ask is not only for my own personal information, but also to let GMs out there know that like you may be running a super serious campaign and stakes may be high and things may be tense. And that's very much what we're doing. We're in a pretty high octane scenario of like, we might get caught or killed here in the next few minutes. And we're trying to come up with a plan and we're trying to say goodbyes and we're trying to get into the cavern. So there's a lot of tension there. And I think it was a relatively unheard of poet, you guys might know by the name of like William Shakespeare, who said that, you can't have tension all the time. You have to relieve it for the audience and then build your tension back up and relieve it. People can't, they get too overstimulated when it's all just one thing and not the other. And the lesser known poet Thanos said, it's balance as all things should be, so
There's also
yeah.
the fun little thing of you gotta have those sweet, fun little moments to make the horrible ones stand out all the more.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, we do that in our real lives where we make a joke to relieve tension.
Exactly.
So you have to let your characters do the same thing. Go ahead, Endo.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, no worries. I was going to say that, but this is what spurs me as the GM to roll the dice for Aditi and see like, will she join the chicken fighting? Like you asked her.
Yes, I loved that you rolled for her to decide that.
Yeah, because again, that's the kind of thing that to me, I didn't plan out the character to be confronted with that situation. So that's a very complex moment. So it's difficult in a rapid fire situation like that to come up with the perfect solution. So I feel like oftentimes, I mean, literally to me, every time I've ever rolled the dice, it's been the right answer. So I trust it quite a bit. But I leave that decision up to fate, and then you just roll with it, because sometimes people make illogical choices. And I love how this fit the narrative of the story so much, because in the moment, I, as the GM, am like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why would this old lady be doing this? This does not make any sense, you know? But she falls, gets hurt, gets up. And Nyx is the one who comes over and is like, hey, are you okay? Like, I don't know why these guys are like clowning around. And Aditi says to Nyx, hey, if this ends up being my last day here, I'm going to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, I liked that a lot.
Yeah, that ended up to me being such a deep, profound meaning behind the silliness that just happened for this lady. That was like, oh, I wasn't thinking that. Like, that was kind of a gut reaction thing for me to say, but was so in fitting with the character and the tone of what was going on, that I was like, that's why I trust the dice to make those shotgun calls sometimes. So, Nyx, what did you think in that moment when Aditi said that to you?
Oh, I found it, like you said, profound. Like, it was a very bittersweet thing to say. The gravity of the situation did kind of dawn on me as a player. And then I think that maybe, it enlightened Nyx a little bit to, the depth of the whole scenario that they're facing. Like, I couldn't have guessed what we were going to face in that cave. But Aditi, she knew what was up. So,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, definitely for her, the bigger picture of like, I'm basically a political prisoner on this island who has escaped. And if I get caught, what happens to me, So, and of course, like you said, Aditi is very familiar with the dangers that are probably lurking in this cave. So they know that leaving with you guys was as perilous as staying behind. And getting caught is worst of all. So it's a very, very dangerous situation for her. And it's kind of like, yeah, how would that person handle the tension? And the dice said, yeah, they do something silly just to be like, fuck it. And it was ultimately the right call, especially seeing Nyx 2 seconds later, where Bran had walked down to like laugh with you guys and help you out of the water. Nyx was the one holding back, arms crossed, grumpity grump. And Aditi was like, hey, let me give you this bit of wisdom. Like, don't be so stuffy all the time, because you never know when it's your last day around, So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Good moment there. Good moment. Thank you, dice, for that. Now, getting back to the general exploration of the cave in general, this is kind of a question for everyone. So anyone who wants to chime in, feel free to chime in. But I made the decision that with the new features in the Owlbear Rodeo VTT, where they had collision barriers for walls and active lighting now that they have, like lighting and fog of war, I thought, hey, let me embrace what this can do and actually create a scenario in which you guys don't know what's up ahead and need to kind of take your time and explore this cavern. I'm very much used to, like I said, IRL games where you mostly have the map revealed all the time. Sometimes you'll cover up sections of it with paper or something. But for the most part, this was giving us a much more realistic opportunity to choose paths to go and discover things along the way. And I decided to do that by keeping you guys in initiative and having you only move the amount you could move during your initiative. I underestimated how much this would drastically slow down this entire part of the adventure. But I felt like it was creating a certain amount of tension watching you guys calculate every decision of which way to go. So again, posing the question kind of to everyone, what were your thoughts and feelings on that style of exploration? And what scenarios do you think that works in?
I liked the turn-based aspect of it because it prevents the chaos that can happen in the moment of like when there's pure exploration. Everybody wants to do something and then everybody gets like separated and then it's like, oh, there's a whole bunch of like pieces to kind of collect again as everybody's like poking around at different things at the same time. It did slow down because we're very scared and very careful, but it also, it added, I think it did add tension and putting things in like this turn order and using actions. It's like we had to consider carefully what we wanted to do. A lot of times it was like, I'm going to move as far as possible.
Yes.
Because like wanting to, like uncover stuff and like, okay, this is the option I can see here. And just trying to get out of this cave and not die.
Yep.
Well,
but
with that in mind, like I know traditionally a lot of D&D or TTRPGs in general would be played very theater of the mind. But I feel like I've always had difficulty in caverns specifically trying to envision what am I looking at? You know, when a GM describes to you, oh, this is a long thing. This is a big corridor. There's several tunnels in different directions. So I thought, you know, boy, really doing this on an overhead map that you guys could move through would really help illustrate where you are at any given moment, where you are in relation to one another. And this was outside of a combat scenario. Whereas like when we play, we're walking up to grandma's house or around Arcadia. You know, when we're just moving around Arcadia with Stavos or Menelaus later, there was no map being portrayed. But I don't feel like those segments would benefit from having a map or anything like that. What do you guys think is it about this scenario that made it work in this scenario versus those others?
I mean, when you're in a cave and it's just kind of like, great, there are rocks and it's dark.
Yeah, you kind of have no landmarks, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like for being in a more social situation or just like town exploration, it's kind of like we have landmarks we can visit. It's like we're going up to grandma's house. We're in town. There's the apothecary. There's the shop over here. It's like you can describe like places we can go. We're in a cave. It's like you can go to that rock or this rock.
Yes.
And it's like, well, where are we? Go ahead.
I think it's like also the thing of like towns are much more familiar to than like how words. People are much more familiar with how towns are laid out than how caverns are structured. Unless you're a
spelunker.
Yeah.
Spelunker.
No, I think there's
Unless
a great,
you're like somebody who spends times in those areas. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, that the relative association of me being like, you go down a city block, right? City blocks can be different lengths in every city and every town, but you have a rough idea in your mind of how far a city block is. If I say you go down this cavern corridor, you could think it was 30 feet or 100 and 1,000 feet, you know? So it seemed very different to blindly stumble through a cave. And I thought the visual representation would go a long way. But noticing how long it was taking, I was worried that it was getting tedious. But in the end, I was hoping it was building a sort of tension.
Yeah, it's kind of like the quieter moments in like a horror game. Like nothing happens for a while and it's like, okay, but when is the thing gonna try to kill me? So like going through the cave, it's like, yeah, we're trying to cover as much as ground as possible and get through, and it's like, all right, we are gonna bump into something bad soon,
yes.
right?
So it had some of that Jaws effect of like not showing you the monster, not showing you the danger up ahead. You really had no idea what you were walking into at any given moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's very cool, very interesting, and just let that be something all of us can put in our bag of tricks as something fun to use when appropriate.
Yes.
Because definitely not for every
Also,
scenario.
There's also the thing of like also having a change in like the norm that wasn't like combat or anything threatening.
Oh.
Like, oh, you have to
Yeah.
like wade through these like little rivers. There's like gemstones
I was kind of like
that you could punch.
I like later in the sessions we kind of like joke about like, oh, it's more water. But like seeing the water also like kind of low-key worried me because I'm just like, that's more stuff we can't see in the water, and it's like, oh, we find more water and we gotta cross it. Okay, cool, we're gonna cross. Oh, something fucking attacked us in the water.
That's so funny. Were you guys like waiting for that? Is that why you kept bringing that up? Because I was like, oh man, did I make the cavern too repetitive? Or
no.
It was, for me, it was also like a little oddly like reassuring of like, yes, water, a constant in this cave. As well as like, okay, when are we going to step into one of these and it like takes our like leg swiftly?
Right. It's like, okay, oh, we're gonna cross the river, and then we just disappear into it.
Exactly.
Just false sense of security. We're just repeatedly seeing the water here, and I'm just like, I feel like this is gonna hurt us at some point.
Gotcha. Oh, that's so funny.
Happens in threes.
That's
now
so
you have some
funny.
insight on how we think.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm constantly surprised by how much more imaginative you guys are for threats than me. Like, I'm doing so much just to add.
Scared.
I know. I'm just trying to add flavor, and you guys are like, is that rock sticking out of the water? It's a monster. Is that tree sticking out of that bush? It's a monster.
Exactly. Yeah, there's like, oh, this bush is oddly shaped. That's a fucking monster.
Yeah, exactly. There's a shadow in the distance. It's a monster. Now, I'm not going to say you guys were wrong all them times, but it does surprise me at how much you guys see a threat in everything that I put in the landscape.
Because threats can be anywhere. And as professional adventurers, we're on guard.
That's very true. And speaking of threats being everywhere, you guys did run into the awesome gemstones. You managed to collect some of them. You managed to even collect some glowing gemstones that you feel like will be very valuable in the future. But you also found...
wish we'd gathered more. They're so neat.
You guys found a field of gemstones that became difficult to cross. At which point, Nyx decided, hey, I am going to try to use my athleticism to get through here, while the others said, hey, we'll go back and try to look for another way while you're doing that. At which point, the Thrapitus descends upon Nyx, dropping down from the ceiling, this scary, horrific little monster falling down and almost crushing Nyx. What was your reaction to this creature, Nyx? What were you thinking in that moment?
So Nyx is, she's just like, don't like that. And she actually freezes. And I think that for her, it was an instant, like she just had the instinct to be still and observe before like reacting. And that is so opposite of her player, me. If that thing had come down, first of all, I wouldn't have noticed it. And then second of all, when I did, I would have been flailing and screaming and like all of the above. So yeah, Nyx, she she has such aplomb. And I think that she was ready for what was to come next. I'm not sure if she expected any kind of threat. Like we were just talking about, maybe we all are at all times. We just are. So yeah, she was ready, her, with her blade within, a couple of seconds of that thing dropping down. And yeah.
Well, definitely, as it dropped down beside you, you got a chance to kind of avoid it and check it out. And unfortunately, Kanopsia, who heard this monster crash down next to you, decided to run back and check on you, at which point they did not see the Trapetus descend, and it managed to clunk Kanopsia right on the head, which was its goal, and tried to attack them. At which point, Nyx jumped in to savior mode and teleported over and hack and slashed up that Trapetus to kind of keep it from gobbling up poor Kanopsia, who had been knocked unconscious. Now, this was kind of at the start of the second part of our session that we did. And it was funny because Juno couldn't make it to that session. And we had kind of talked about, hey, what can we do with your character to kind of keep you involved and part of the story, but also something that makes sense. And we kind of came up with this idea of like, oh, this is literally what this creature does. This is how it fights, as it's trying to fall on people. It poses as a stalactite, falls on people, knocks them unconscious, and then can feast on them. So the beauty of the monster is that at any other point, it will not fight. It will just flee. It does not want to fight people at all. But in this one moment, it's the perfect thing to kind of KO a PC and then kind of make them vulnerable, where now the party has to care for them and take them on the journey with them, rather than being the classic, hey, I'm a GM, a player's not here, by screen edit, they are just have disappeared, or I have to role play them or something like that. I really liked this concept of you are unconscious and the party has to protect you now. But Cypher, you tried so hard to revive Kanopsia, and I'm just curious what your thought was on trying to revive Kanopsia so much. Did you actually think you were going to revive them, or just trying to make sure that Nyx was doing everything they could to revive them?
I think it was Nyx trying to do everything she could. So I don't know if I obviously, because we didn't have Juno in that session, we weren't going to get any action out of Kay that time. But I think so. So I think that it was mostly just me role playing that Nyx will do anything, and try really hard, for her friend.
Okay, that's great, man. Yeah, that's good role play then on your part. I was a little curious if you were expecting me to role play Kanopsia a little bit as being the fourth party member, and I didn't know if there was a concern of like, this is kind of our tank. We need them in the game, dude. Like, do not knock them out. That can't be the plan that you and Juno had. Like, please,
No, I was surprised though, a little bit about your decision to knock Kay out, but it made super duper sense.
Okay, what was your curiosity about it? What were you thinking was strange about it?
Nothing strange, and it was mostly, just I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know how you were going to make Kay not there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you were curious if there was a little something more to it than that. So
Mm.
well,
That's fair, because I was too.
Mhm.
Because like knowing Juno wasn't going to make it, I was like, are we going to get separated in the cave? Like I was wondering like, oh, will Canopsia like get dragged off by something? And then we end up having to rescue Canopsia later or find Canopsia. But I think the way you did handle it made sense, just in case, like if Juno could appear suddenly and it's like,
Right.
oh, he's awake, yay.
Yeah, and honestly, your suggestion would have
Very
worked
cool.
as well, and was something I considered. The idea of like,
Mhm.
oh, Juno had decided to turn back, right? So that was my choice to say
Yes.
Canopsia had turned back. At that point, they could have gotten lost. I could have put them anywhere. There could have been a cave in. They couldn't get back to you. They had to find their way around. But I liked the idea of you guys not only having to traverse the gemstone field, as difficult as it was, but also with the addition of now you have to lug a body through it.
Yes.
So that
I liked it. Yeah. And of course we're gonna take care of Canopsia.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So that was kind of
Gonna
the
carry
thing.
him like a beloved sack potato.
Yeah.
That was the thing that ultimately swayed my decision, was to basically make that encounter more difficult. Which, in the grand scheme of things, I probably didn't need to make anything more difficult for you guys. But I will be honest, I thought I had made the perfect decision when Rinverhi joined the battle against the Trapitas, and you instantly just started like poofing these things. Like I think I said like
Mhm.
peeps in a microwave.
Yes.
You did.
So how did you feel Rinverhi battle sorcerer through that adventure there?
It felt great. It felt right to decimate things instantly. This was my true calling. I am no longer the healer.
I used my powers to kill.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The harm assist is in.
Well, I definitely like I've always been a fan of the magic users that are very offensive in the use of their abilities.
Mhm.
While definitely every party uses support players, you need to have them and everything like that. A good offensive spellcaster can really bring the heat, so to speak, and I like the fact that you basically play Rinverhi as a support most of the time. And in this one instance, you're like, oh, wait, I have like gangbuster offense versus these creatures. And you just started going ham on them. So that was very cool.
Yeah.
Effectively.
I'm glad you thought so. But yeah, I also think like being a support purely doesn't mean being like only having like pacifistic abilities,
Right.
only doing healing and stuff. It's like he's also an adventurer. He also needs to know how to like protect himself
Yes.
and hurt things or kill things. So yeah, I think having offensive capabilities is important even for a support character.
For sure. No, I like it. I think it was a good turn of the character a little bit, and a good turn of like you getting to be a little bit more the forefront, especially now that we were a player down. And I think everyone was a little bit worried.
Oh,
Yeah. The fact that you could, in a sense, step up a little bit and like fill that offensive gap was really cool.
Yeah, no, I liked it,
Mhm.
but I also Endo like to kill things,
Yay.
and it's fun.
Uh,
And like it wasn't a low cost thing either. It still took spell slots, but like
Yes.
to instantly poof them, like worth it.
yes.
Felt good.
And again, we'll get into how valuable those spell slots may or may not have been in a little bit.
Okay.
But it was great to see you just keeping pace with everyone else. And I know Nyx and Bran were both getting their shots and hacking and slashing these creatures to pieces. They realistically didn't have very many hit points. So you guys were taking them out left and right. I know Nyx slashed up one, end to end, and Bran caught one coming down from the sky and cut it right in half. So everybody was doing their fair share. But there was definitely a bit of what the fuck are these things? And
Yes.
what are we up against? And interestingly enough,
Funky little guys.
you guys found, and this again was totally by accident. This was just the collaborative storytelling that Dusk, you decided to, hey, I want to harvest some of the parts from this creature and stop and cut them up. And I was thinking in my head, boy, this is almost like you're carving something up to eat. You know who would probably think the same thing and pop their head out to see what was going on. And this is when, of course, Carl made their appearance in the session and showed up with some interesting news that I know took Dusk by surprise. What'd you think of that, Dusk, finding out that Carl was as old as he was, claiming that he himself was ancient?
It's just like one of those things of like, what? Yeah, this might as well happen. Anyways. Questions for later.
So there was definitely...
It's really fascinating. Because, it's also a thing of like, Carl has been with Bran for a good chunk of his life, and just like being hit with the knowledge of like, oh, I don't know as much about you as I thought I did. It's also really interesting.
Yeah. So again, we've got those layers, but it makes sense that you're running into these ancient creatures now. And Carl's like, bro, where'd you find this? I know what that is. And it's like, how do you know what that is? And it's like, I'm from the same time as this guy. And it's like,
a really fun dynamic.
Oh, okay. You're just like, what?
Okay.
So you guys get to kind of piece together a little bit about what these creatures are and their tactics from both Carl and Arati, who's filling you guys in on like, yeah, these are, old creatures. We thought they were, not going to be down here, but they are. And they have chosen carefully the place to stalk you guys, that they know they can hide among these stalactites and be basically invisible. And if you walk underneath one, it's going to attempt to drop down onto you, which led to what you guys dubbed the Trapitas Minesweeper.
Yeah.
And I thought was a super ton of fun. So what did you guys think of that moment of having to kind of play Minesweeper through the second half of that cavern map?
Again, it added like a lot of tension. I was also really afraid of these things because of how like easily we dispatch them. I was just thinking like, if these things actually land a hit on us, will it knock us out? Will it fucking kill us?
Right.
So yeah, I assumed the threat level on these things was like pretty dang high.
Yeah, realistically, the fact that they could knock out Kapsia in that one targeted single blow has to keep you on edge for like, I do not want to fail my save. And I know we had a couple of re-rolls and close calls on that. But ultimately you guys were making your way through there pretty good. I know you guys had Arati with you as well, which I think caused some concern, but you guys seem to have a good strategy of following within one another's footprints too.
Yes.
There was a bit of me trying to make sure that you guys burnt through your ability to teleport, because all of you kind of have that dream walk ability as your races, and then Nyx has the gloaming shard that gives you guys a pretty decisive edge. And of course, Nyx using it like right away to save Kapsia was like, okay, cool. So that's got an hour cooldown now. So you have to kind of make your way through it without that. and then the rest of y'all having used your dream walks, and then I think maybe someone was saving one for more of an emergency situation, but I know it really elevated that tension knowing that you didn't have an easy out there either.
Yeah. I think I
Yeah.
was trying to save one, and I think at the end I had used it, or the quote unquote end. Like
Mhm.
we had gone through like the minesweeper, and then I think it was also around a point where I can't remember if I had used my favorite to avoid one of these things dropping on me, or it did, or like it didn't. I killed her or something. But I know
Right.
I had Rinverhi like use his little teleporty, and I'm just thinking like I probably shouldn't have done that.
No, yes,
But
you're
I
right.
still had
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, you actually used your divine favor on a successful save. You know, and I was like,
Oh, yeah.
okay. I just didn't tell
Oh.
you it was a save yet. And you were like, I'm using my divine favor. I was like, really? And you were like, yes, 100%. That's okay.
I don't remember if I had known it was successful. Something I don't
No,
know.
you didn't. But I know, like,
Yeah.
it was like you rolled the roll, and we're like, that's a bad roll. I
It
want to
looked
use my
super
divine
bad.
favor.
It must have, yeah.
So it was definitely borderline, but I was like, in my head, I'm like, oh, you passed that check though, but okay.
It's like, fine, use your resources, idiot. I'm gonna kill you.
No, I just figured that's the nature of the game. You know, if
No,
if you
definitely,
call it, you
definitely.
call it. I'm like, you know, I feel like it'd be unfair for me to be like, oh no, but you actually saved.
No,
you know?
yeah.
So-
Like, especially if I was so decisive about it, like, all right, man, go for it.
Yes, yeah.
And then later I'm thinking like, why the fuck did I spend divine favor there? I should have kept it for this moment. But I'm also I really try to avoid resource hoarding, because it's
Yes.
better to spend it and on, like, you know, make use of it, and that rather than have stuff left over after things are said and done.
Yeah, that's the classic video game mentality of like you beat
Yeah.
the final boss and you're like, fuck, I never used like all this cool shit I had because I kept
Yeah,
thinking there was
exactly.
someone better. You know?
Yeah, it's like you have like 99 potions left because you never drank them ever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So good on you for being like, no, I'm actually going to use this stuff that refreshes every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that made the next part of the adventure that much better when you guys had burned through a lot of your stuff. So yeah, we're gonna finish off
We
tonight
added our own tension.
talking
Yeah,
about
exactly.
my favorite monster of the bit,
Cave
the-
Thulu.
the lasso, the cave Thulu. Yes.
Oh,
right? So this, dude, I loved this so much because I had this whole thing set up. These creatures have false appearance. They cannot be identified by any normal means. I'm pretty sure even like magical means you can't tell that they're there. But y'all walked out to this place and I'm like, oh yeah, there's a big stalagmite sticking out of the water right here. And you're like, that's a monster, dude. I'm shooting that with like my mind spell.
Yeah, you immediately blocked it.
Yes.
It's like, oh, we've been getting attacked by rocks, and now we see a fucking giant one.
You're like, sus rock right there. I see it.
Yeah.
I'm calling it. Don't like
I do not trust that rock.
So
But
you
then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, it's okay. You immediately were like, I want to do the force push on it, you know? And you said this will not work if it's not a creature, you know?
Yeah.
That if it's just a rock, the spell wouldn't go off at all. But of course, the spell wouldn't go off at all if they beat the save too.
Yeah.
So I rolled the save and I rolled it in front of everybody. I didn't think to hide it or anything. And then I was like, he passed. It was a good roll. Y'all could see it was a good roll. And it's like, why are you rolling for an ordinary rock, bro? You know? So I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I totally played my hand. I probably should have been a little more stealth about it, but
No, it's fine. Because, like,
Partially, I thought you were just humoring us.
there was a part of that, but it's also like it's fine because it's like us as players, we know, but the role decides like, okay, Rinverhi did his check, nothing happened. He is like, oh, it's fine.
yes. Yeah. So again, kudos to all of you guys for keeping the role play in the role play, that you didn't use the meta knowledge that you could clearly piece together to be like, hey, does everyone want to avoid the fucking rock for no reason? But you guys kept it to, well, let's keep modus operandi. Let's keep with what we were doing, because we have to assume that Rinverhi just quote unquote checked. And that is just a rock. And you guys played with that mentality in mind. So again, when anyone out there thinking about metagaming or good examples of not metagaming and how to play it straight, that is how you do it. So kudos to you guys for a really great bit of role play there. But of course, this leads to you guys spreading out among that room, looking for your way out. And each one of you guys kind of slowly becoming a target for the lasso. And it's so funny because Dusk, you had said before we even walked into the cave, something along the lines when you were planning on which way to escape from the city, you said, we do not have what it takes to get into a fight. So we need to be careful and be smart about which route we choose. And then after watching Rinverhi like chime spell after spell after spell during the Trapitas, I was like, oh man, you guys are going to fucking hate me.
Yeah.
But you get into the very next room. Dusk, what were your thoughts when you realize Kapsia has been snatched off your shoulder and is being dragged away by this gigantic creature?
It was just like a full moment of like, ah, shit, here we go again.
Now, yeah, go ahead.
Also, just like having like that like drop in my gut of like, okay, what are we facing and can we handle it? Or is this a run situation?
Yes, that's always the thing, man. And again, you guys learned that lesson already with King Lycion. Sometimes, the better part of valor is to live and fight another day, But I personally really enjoyed the fact that both Rinverhi and Bran had another party with them. There was someone else with you that could be and made sense to be the target of the lasso first, right? Like rather than get the active participant, just grab the easy person that maybe the adventurers will be like, well, okay, they got that guy, but let's get out of here, So, from a monster perspective, you're like, it's the easy meal, right?
Yes.
The injured one, I'm going to snag them.
Yeah.
So I know I had you guys all like roll for, I think it was like a perception check to notice that the lasso had grabbed Artie and had grabbed Bran and was sneaking up behind Nyx, who unfortunately was by themselves, right? But everyone kind of failing that check and being like, oh, what do you do now? I remember Rinverhi, especially, you were like, shit, man. Like, I know I didn't do good on that check, but like, I don't know what just happened and I got to just keep doing what I'm doing. And that moment as a GM was so good. But what were you guys thinking knowing that something had happened and you missed it and your characters missed it?
Yeah, basically
Panic.
afraid. And also, I had one job.
Yes.
Barry had one job.
So yes, turning around and seeing Artie get sucked into the water. Like, walk us through your thoughts there, E.
Oh yeah, I had one fucking job. I know Rinverhi felt really bad, and then I felt really bad. Together, we felt like we failed this poor elderly woman. Like, yeah, we're gonna protect you. Don't worry. Shit. Sorry. And then I know I waffled like, okay, the dumb thing to do is to use this thing I was saving for emergencies, my teleport, but going, the role play, it's like, Rinverhi would use it here to try to to help this woman. He feels like he failed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's burn more of my shit before fighting this giant monster.
So knowing that, right? So you burn that move again, sticking to the
Yes.
role play, the combat role play we spoke about in another Tavern Talk, is something you guys do very well. I really like that. But overall, I think that everyone was a little hesitant getting into a fight with such a large creature. And
Yes.
I recall, Nyx, at one point, you were struggling with like whether or not you guys could flee. And you brought that up at one point, like, is there a way that we can get away from this thing? Was there any point, Nyx, that you would have considered something an acceptable loss? I mean, clearly it would have been hard to walk away from Kapsia, but if you guys couldn't free Arati, was there ever the thought that you might leave her behind? That sounds like a yes. I'll be honest. That hesitation.
Yeah,
I'm staring intensely at your face.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's very Nyx-like at all. But I think that, she was very like that. Oh my gosh, that thing is so big and scary looking. Oh my God. So like just looking at the art is so intimidating. And I think that she certainly felt a little hopeless, in a way. And that's unusual for her, but and that makes Arati's comments from earlier about her last, like her possibly, things being her last day, even more potent. But yeah, I think Nyx was feeling a little bit defeated. I don't think that she would have given up, though. I think she would have tried everything, probably to her death, to figure it out.
Yeah, that seems very fitting for Nyx's character. And it really did seem like in the moment you were walking through that logic as Cypher and then arrived to the conclusion as Nyx. When you brought up the fact of like, oh man, is there some way that we can, well, I mean, they've got my friend and all right, we got to see this through. So it's like you did that whole progression in like real time, which I thought was so cool. But again, really a great job of looking at the combat scenario through the role play eyes. So very, very cool, because it can be tempting as a player to do what the player knows is the best thing to do. But sometimes you have to be like, but is that what my character would do? And you found that. And I think that's really awesome and such a good example for other people out there checking out the program. But with that being said, it slowly and painfully became obvious that in this instance, I think your characters were very overwhelmed. I think I did not, I'll just flat out say I did not reduce the challenge of the monster at all, despite there being one less person, which was just an oversight on my part. I just didn't think about the challenge of the monster versus 3 people versus 4. But there was definitely a moment where I feel like you all as players were fighting as desperate characters to the point where you were losing the fight because you weren't thinking like players, which is what I was thinking when I designed the encounter. So how do you guys feel like your strategy was going into it versus after the point where I was like, this is going badly, but you guys, I'm going to give you some help. And Rinverhi, Endo, like you pointed out to me, hey, as the GM, you can give us a check or something that can help us if you see that we're clearly doing something that's getting us killed. which I appreciate because I was a little bit panicking too. But again, how did you guys feel at the start of that fight, getting into it, and then seeing that it started to go badly? What were you guys feeling? Was there ever a moment where you're like, we don't have this and we're going to die?
I was scared from the start.
Okay.
But also, I think it was dice rolls really fucking us over.
That's very true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Going into it, or go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Going into it, I had like confidence we could like. We might have come out with a good bit of scratches, but I believed we could do it. And then just seeing the dice rolls and like, there was a moment where I kept on like trying to run off the wall to like get up to it.
Yes.
And I think in that moment, Bran was very much thinking, okay, what would Nyx do? She is a very capable warrior. How would she like go at this? Considering like it's a very dexterous creature
Mm-hmm.
that's been like evading my attacks so far. And then like after I think it's either 2 or 3 rounds of failing that, it switches to like, okay, I am not Nyx. What would Bran do? And it's just marching up to it, grabbing a tentacle and stabbing it in the face.
Yes. I know we discussed, I think, a little bit afterwards, the idea of like you trying to do something cinematic the same way Kapsia had, being like, I'm going to jump out this window. That to me as the DM was like, that is like certain death. If you jump out of that window during the fight with King Lycaon and just plummet over an edge and 2 seconds later a building falls on you, because that's going to happen either way. That's going to be bad for Kapsia. So we had joked that like you were kind of in the same boat of like, I want to do something cool and awesome. And trust me, as a GM, I want you to do shit that is cool and awesome and not in the textbook. You know, I 100% want you to. But when that roll gets biffed, that's almost like a sign from the universe of like, this is not the cinematic
Exactly.
moment, you know? And neither one of us really pegged that. And you came around the second time and tried to do it again, and it biffed the second time. And it was like, oh man. And the third time you were still considering doing it again. And I think you did like, I think collectively everyone kind of talked you out of it. Not me, but the others, you know?
And I appreciate it.
Yeah. But there was, you know, there was a bit of that element of like that strategy just wasn't working. And because it was taking up those turns and taking up those rounds, and Arati and Kapsia were continuing to get hurt during that time, it was really starting to look dicey. Things were getting dicey. And again, that like if you think about Bran being one of, if not the heaviest hitter on the group, not landing hits, things start to look bad real quick. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
that was getting me scared. My dice were rolling like hot fire. Like my dice wanted to kill you guys.
Oh yeah, that
Crit on
dice.
cave once, and I was just like,
Yeah.
no.
Your dice craved blood. Our
Yeah.
blood.
So things were getting bad. And as a GM, I think there's a duty to recognize when your players are not enjoying something, and getting your teeth kicked in.
I also want to formally apologize for threatening to murder you.
That's all
wasn't
right.
cool.
That's all good.
Yeah, kill the monster.
I know.
Nobody.
Yes, you hit the monster. You hit the monster. But the you're like, no,
I
you're the
was
one rolling the
frustrated,
dice,
but
man.
That's just not justify it. Oh,
Yes, please be due conscientious that sometimes your GMs are not trying to kill you. That's just the way the dice roll. But also, like I said, as a GM, I feel like it's one's duty in that position to recognize whether or not your players are having fun and to check in with them. And to me, when I made the comment of like, man, I see that there's a winning strategy here, and I feel like you guys don't see it, and you're not doing it, and I don't know if I should say something. While it hadn't occurred
I
to
was
me.
too obsessed with doing something cool.
Yeah.
That's fully on me. At
Well-
one point, it like really like locked in. Like, this will get us killed. Stop doing this.
Yes.
Go punch it.
For sure. But again, it's a team effort. So any one of the other two players there could have been like, Bran, stop doing that and like, let's formulate another tactic, you know? But I felt like everyone was kind of focused on doing their own thing, and rightly so. You know, Nyx was being attacked by a tentacle. Rinverhi was still trying to free Arati and then do a couple of spells that weren't landing, you know? And then Bran, you were doing something separate. So everyone was kind of in a separate mode. And it occurred to me that unless you guys work together, this isn't going to happen, you know? So I didn't immediately jump in there and be like, hey, let me give you a roll to help. My first instinct, which was really kind of subconscious, I didn't mean to do this, but I think was actually the better approach in the long run, was for me to just check in. Are you guys still having a good time? Are you trying to figure this out? Do you see the better strategy and you're just trying to do something cool? Like, so in essence, I was trying to get a read on how you guys were feeling in the moment, because I feel like if the check-in reports back that you guys are like, this fucking sucks, we're going to die, this is bullshit, and I feel like you're like just fucking us over, that's not where the GM wants to be. That's not where you should be. You know, your players should always feel like they have the opportunity to win, even when they're losing, you know?
Yeah.
So doing that brief little check-in with you guys, it seemed like, again, Endo, you were the one to be like, yeah, can you give us a check to help us out? Like, you can do that. So like, do that, you know? So was that kind of your thought going into it? Was like, yeah, give us a hint, give us a hand, help us out?
Basically, yeah. I mean, after getting so many failed throws, it was like, okay, if there is like a secret to this that we were missing, or another tactic we need to do because our shit's fucking failing. Let's see if the dice want to let you give us hints.
Yes. And again, I love the fact that you left it up to that random chance still again too. You weren't just like, tell me how to beat the monster, but like, give me a chance.
This is no longer playing the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that goes along with the next part of the question for me, is that like, would you have wanted me to do more to lean the fight in your favor on the stealth side, like subtracting hit points from the monster or suddenly changing its armor class? Would you prefer something like that? Or do you feel like there's a time for that? Or do you like the way it played out, that you just got some strategical tips that helped you guys still beat the monster?
I like how it played out. I wouldn't have liked the AC changing because that was something we already knew.
Yes.
But if you had decided to reduce its hit points and didn't say anything about it, like I wouldn't be mad about that. Like if you're going to adjust fights for your players, I think you should adjust things that are secret that haven't already been established. So
yes. I 100% agree that I felt like you guys were getting a good read on the AC being 20, and like me suddenly lowering that and saying someone else's hit goes through all of a sudden, then whoever's previous turn that was is going to be like, yo, what the hell? Like, I just missed with this. Like, why did that hit?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It like crumbles all previous progress.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I know that there are like GMs who think it's bullshit period to like adjust fights, especially to like help your players, but it depends on the kind of game you're running, you know?
Yes. Yeah, I also feel like me rolling all of my rolls so that our audience can see them in real time limits also my ability to fudge any rolls, which is both good and bad. In this scenario, if I were playing IRL behind a DM screen, I may have felt the urge to be like, oh, that missed when something hit. Just to kind of
like, don't let the thing crit.
Yes, exactly. Like just kind of let those things play out. And like you said, anything you can control in secret is one thing. But anything that becomes kind of public knowledge now seems like you're being soft on your party and that they didn't earn the win.
Yeah.
You know? So I was worried that me giving you guys tips would also affect the same way, that it feels like you didn't earn the win in some way. But
yeah,
I think, Endo, you had the perfect call of like, well, give us a role that like our characters should know the better strategy, even if us as players don't see it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference there, is that if I just told you, well, the game mechanic says if you guys flank on both sides, blah, 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 then it's like, I'm just kind of metagaming now. But
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if you had blatantly asked, like, hey, do you want me to give you tips? I personally, I'd be like, no.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Same.
Because you wouldn't have earned it at that point,
Yeah.
But again, having the ability to give you guys intuition or insight through the dice rolls, I think is exactly what the situation calls for. In terms of exactly what I was saying, that's the role play forward kind of mentality of like, your player may not know the best strategy to fight a monster, but they know the rules. But the character doesn't know the rules, but they know the best way to fight the monster.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I can tell you what your character thinks is the best way to fight the monster, and you can interpret that into a rule-based scenario,
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I cut out the middleman and was like, yeah, you guys need to fucking flank the monster. But,
that's fine.
Yeah. It was just making sure that those dots got connected,
Yeah.
But yeah, the monster hunter, Bran being a monster hunter and kind of leaning on that, and it was funny because Endo, you were the person who spoke up. I gave you a role, and you remember I gave you like no new information.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I was just thinking like, well, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what your character would know.
Yeah.
But then it was like, Bran, you make your role, your character would understand the situation differently as a monster hunter, So I felt like I could give Bran the right intuition, but it would be inappropriate for that thought to spontaneously come to Rinverhi, who's not a monster hunter.
Yes.
So again, leaning into the role play angle of it and the character side of things, I think is always a safer bet if you're in this situation. So it worked out very well in the end. And hopefully you guys felt like that was a hard earned fight because it was. And
yes, it fucking was.
Despite giving you guys any tips about strategy, you took on every hit point and it's full AC for a monster designed to fight with 4 people. So, kudos. I hope you guys feel the vindication that you should in kicking that thing's ass.
Yes, it felt good. And then, oh no, I'm not gonna say. It's a little bit spoilers. It happens in next session.
Okay. Well, the definitely one thing I want to touch base on is the fact that I know in rewatching a lot of this, Juno was probably thinking, man, you guys are getting me chomped like left and right by this big monster. And there was even some discussion.
I am a chew toy.
Yeah.
Squeak.
There was even some discussion at one point as to whether or not to heal Kapsia or just be like, well, let's win the fight first. And then if we live, we can heal Kapsia.
That was a really difficult decision.
It was. So I want to give
What, am I chopped liver to you?
No.
Allegedly.
Shall I explain why it's difficult? Or do you just want to think that I wanted to kill you?
You want me dead.
Maybe. No.
And then they kiss.
And then they kiss.
No, go for our viewers at home though. Go ahead and explain, Rinverhi. What was the decision-making process there?
It was basically, so like we heal Kapsia, or I heal Kapsia, and then Kapsia keeps getting fucking chewed on and gets KO'd anyway.
Yes.
And it was like, okay, maybe I can provide enough hit points where, he doesn't get KO'd. But the thing about getting KO'd is you're not dead.
Right.
So it was like, okay, do I want to heal you or spend resources towards making sure the thing that's hurting you is dead so it can't kill you or anyone else? And then I think rolling to hurt it didn't work out anyway.
Well, there's definitely it's like the lifeguards training thing, where if you're a lifeguard and you go out to rescue someone who's unconscious and drowning and you're about to get battered in to a pier, the training tells you take the unconscious person and you use them as a brace between you and the peer. Because if the peer knocks you out, you're both dead.
You're both dead.
Exactly.
Yep.
So it's I think it's along those lines of like, yes, we can heal Kapsia in the short term, or we can try to save their life in the long term.
Yeah.
So I think that was a good choice. But going through all the times that I'm sure you noticed the party being very careful with poor unconscious Kapsia, not trying to spike them into the ground like a football or use them as a literal weapon.
Never.
How did you feel the party did in taking care of you, Kapsia?
I am immensely proud of how well everyone was able to work together and voice what they wanted to do. Again, it just shows how open everybody is to working together and trying to make sure, because everyone's very clearly trying to keep each other alive. And even though I wasn't there for the session, it's very clear that it's like, we all as players all deeply care about each other, and I know if we were all like fucking monster adventurers, we would be fighting tooth and nail to protect the other person and make sure they would stay alive. So
hell yeah.
I'm very proud of my party and how fucking cool everybody is and doing their fucking, their thing.
So we get
really good. Yeah.
We get 5 stars on taking care of
you get
just
5 stars on it. You get 5 stars
5.
on Adventuring Yelp.
Thank you.
5 stars on Yelp. Yeah.
Very
Thank you
nice.
so much.
Yeah, the strategy, the planning, and everyone again just like doing their best to try and just like cover each other's asses. Because you don't want to leave anyone out in the cold. And even though Kapsia was being chewed on like a little squeaky toy, it was just like, no,
nothing he can't handle.
No, it's nothing he can't handle. He has 40 hit points. He's beefy for a level 4 paladin. But
Exactly.
yeah, it just
beef.
shows like how fucking awesome everybody is at working together and strategizing, even if it takes a minute. That's what strategy is. It takes a hot second to figure out and fully like solidify what it is you want to do. And even then, sometimes something happens. It's like, well, change of plans. Just fucking wing it. Wing it so hard and just hope for the best.
Exactly.
Yeah. So everyone did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Juno.
Whatever. I don't care.
Shut up, you nerds.
And we do it again.
I don't even care.
That reminds me of like one thing from earlier, like the Lycian fight. It was pretty early established that we can't win that. We can't fight that and win. We had to run.
Right.
And I think the difference between that one and this fight, like when we got into this, it never crossed my mind that we were going to run away because the monster took our buddy. And I was just thinking, like, I don't think we can get them back away from the monster. Like, even if we attack the tentacles. So I was like, this is the one we stick here and we fight through. Because we got to get our buddies back.
That's
but
awesome.
if they hadn't, or if the monster hadn't grabbed anybody, it was like, we got to go.
Yes.
Running without a second thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that also came in clutch with something I didn't expect about the decision to have Kapsia with you, was that the lasso would have that ability to always kind of latch on or try to grab Kapsia. So this became another obstacle to keep you guys from fleeing from that fight, and kind of forcing you to grit down and take on what really seemed like and possibly was a superior foe. But again, because it was simply a creature and a monster, all it took was a little bit of tactical thinking to give you guys the advantage. So very nicely done. Well, we're going to leave off tonight on what was one of the most unexpected moments of all of session 7, a very impromptu beat towards the end, where we realize that Kapsia and Arati have both reached well below 0 hit points, and their lives are in imminent danger. And not only have we used up all of the healing salve that Stavos gave us, but Rinverhi is also out of any sort of healing spells, which led to a very interesting moment in which Rinverhi, after several times throughout session 7, doing a little prayer as they were going along, one last time dove into a heavy and heartfelt prayer to Apollo to help give them some sort of strength to revive their friends. And it was with that motivated the fact that Apollo may not have been entirely awake in that moment, but he was stirred. And you managed to stir him just a little bit, Rinverhi. And in that moment, you kind of broke the bounds between the dreamscape. And as you were trying to heal your two friends, doing a medicine check rather than any sort of magical means, you started to drift into the mindset of the version of you that was in the medic tent from session 1, that nightmare world in which you were never a cleric, and that your uncle Rafni was instead the one who was a cleric and had divine light
Nightmare.
and healing ability. Yes.
Nightmare. Nope.
Yeah. And you went into full doctor mode from that moment, thereby kind of clashing the bounds of the dreamscape, which caused you to stir Apollo awake. At which point, I think there's a beautiful moment where you are bossing Bran and Nyx around, giving them instructions on how to kind of haphazardly heal the two. And although they are not doing a great job, you perceive them as doing a great job. But Bran and Nyx are taken aback. So Nyx, Bran, what were you guys thinking in that moment watching Rinverhi kind of slip into this other character? I know they had lost their accent and were seemingly someone else. What were you guys' thoughts in that moment?
We like this Rinverhi better.
I know they don't want to say it.
I was gonna let Cypher go first.
Oh, yeah. So I know Nyx trusts Rinverhi, but I mean, obviously she was taken aback, and she had no idea what was going on, but she did as she was told. And I as the player, you know, I played it out like that because I think that's what she would do, you know, and it helped that Rinverhi in this state was so bossy. I think I played it the way that was instinctual to me, but I also can see Nyx not wanting to do these things that the Rinverhi in this state was asking her. But I just made the choice to do what he said, and I guess I just got to stick by that one.
For sure, for sure.
For Bran, it was the very real panic of like semi-irrational thing of like, oh, am I losing Rin? Don't do this to me. Of just like having someone very close to him just like kind of just disappear even for just like a moment and be replaced with someone he doesn't recognize, but still trusting that like I trust Rin, I trust who this is. Even if it's not exactly the Rin I know. and having that like very real concern of like, is this some sort of possession? Because like as a monster hunter, there are certain creatures that can possess, like wraiths and like ghosty types.
For sure.
And that also tied with like Bran not really trusting divinity
Right.
after the whole like change in voice, and I was going to say like transfer of like and also having the concern of Rin being prone to maybe giving more of himself than Bran is comfortable with, of like that line of at what point is being very altruistic, at what point does it become self-destructive?
For sure. And I think we crossed that threshold very quickly as you guys started to notice that Rinverhi was literally withering away as he's giving his life force to Kapsia and Arati, which in what I thought was an extremely heartfelt moment was Nyx reached out and grabbed Rinverhi by both wrists and shouted at them to stop. And I made sure to clarify, do you pull their hands away from the other two? And Cypher was like, no, I trust what Rinverhi's doing, but I don't want them to kill themselves, you know? And I was like,
really liked that
Mhm.
decision.
yes,
Same.
that was wonderful, Cypher. And what made you have that conclusion to say, I trust them to do what they're doing, and I'm going to let them do it, but I don't want them to hurt themselves, kind of a thing? Like what was that like for you?
Well, it was very bittersweet. Because obviously like it was a necessity, right? But it's that age old, like tug of war between what needs to be done and what the consequences are, for doing it. And I think that that was just running through my head for Nyx. And it was a pretty heavy moment now that I think about it.
It was very nice. And of course this
Mhm.
culminates in what I have kind of dubbed during my editing process, piecing the episode together and doing the artwork for it, as the Radiant Rinverhi.
Ooh.
Who kind of
Love.
takes
Love.
on this visage of the power of Apollo in that moment. And again, stirring him the way you do, a voice booms out from Rinverhi that is not their own, or is at least doubled with their own, that asks, do I slumber? And immediately shakes the room, booms out everywhere, and in the blink of an eye, Rinverhi's back with no idea as to what happened. So that being where session 7 ends, what is everyone's take on what relevance that may have on the story, and what impact do you think it might have?
Sexy.
Thank you.
Hot.
Besides just adding the drip,
I know, right? I mean,
I said what I said.
Mhm.
I just like I think it serves as like proof, like the gods are out there, and they're sleeping, but
Yeah.
they're not entirely dormant. You know,
for sure.
I don't know. I thought it was cool.
It's sick as hell.
It was super sick. It was also like it's it wasn't the first time Apollo answered Rinverhi's prayers either.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I would say it's the first time it has been, in an essence, so literal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's,
Like so concrete.
yeah, that actual sort of divine presence is pretty impactful in a sense of like, that's certainly not something that happens with deities every day, that they actually phone in a personalized message. You know?
Yeah. Especially waking up from their little nap to do so.
Mhm.
So, any other ramifications or threads you guys think that may pull?
I don't like that you're asking that.
Yeah, agreed.
Hey, you know me, just trying to get ideas.
Yeah, right.
That one concern is the gods are very powerful and we are like just little guys, so the possibility of them trying to help and possibly creating some fun instances is on my mind.
Or like Apollo connects through Rinverhi again and then Rinverhi explodes.
Please.
You're like,
no.
oop, wait, I had that turned up way too much that time. Shit. You know?
Yeah, right. Listen, I mean, they couldn't talk to people, so.
Well,
yeah, I don't really know what ramifications. Like, maybe they're weakened upon awaking or something like that, or like these connections, like these very obvious like links and stuff to our deities. Like, are they hurting us somehow?
Very
Could
curious.
they also be like? Could they also be perceptible? Like like due to this instance of like a like connection being made to like the mortal realm, is that's like some kind of beacon that can be sensed by our opposition?
Yeah. A good point.
I know. And
very scary.
A good reason why I don't
Agreed.
do camera on Tavern Talk. Yay. You don't get to read my faces now.
just see Chavez just feverishly writing in a book.
But yes, we will have to discover in the long run what exactly this message means, what this ability may be that Rinverhi has tapped into, and what ramifications come from having to deal with it in future sessions of Pristine Dreams. I'm sure it's good.
It's fine. Apollo loves me. I'm his chosen.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're a special little meow meow.
Yeah, these deities love you guys. They're not going to blow you up for like no reason.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
They're gonna blow you up for a good reason, not a bad reason, a good reason.
Yeah. Exactly, Nyx. The gods would not explode us unless they had to. He says, really chipper.
That would be
mortifying.
I know that would be the holy man's take, right? That he's like, well, if we have to blow up, then that's what the gods will. And you're just like, no, dude.
No, bro, it's not.
Did they think of everything yet?
If Apollo possessed me and made me use my very life essence to restore my friends, then that's how it had to be. I'm so tired.
I'm so tired. Help.
Take a nap.
I will, thank you.
Well, all right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me tonight and recapping and discussing Session 7, which was a very unique and interesting part of Pristine Dreams so far. I hope all the listeners out there found some interesting value in tonight's talk and maybe learned a few things about GMing or what it's like to be a player and how to role play more effectively. I want to thank you guys for joining us. If you've been listening this long, feel free to like and subscribe so you don't miss some other exciting stuff from us here at D20 Dreamland. Otherwise, enjoy your evening. Have fun. Any final parting thoughts from our party?
Thanks for listening.
Go to hell.
I'm scared.
That too.
Yeah, I'm also scared, but like, listener, I need you to come down with me to hell, and I need you to hold my hand, but you can't look back, okay? Don't
Wait,
look
you guys
back.
are scared? Why are you scared?
Yeah, I'm scared.
Why?
It's
It's gonna be fine.
I'm shitting my pants.
If we explode,
I'm
it's
shitting
because
my
God
pants.
needs us to.
That's great. I'm built
That's not a
different,
healthy
though.
frame of mind.
You're not a healthy frame of mind.
Whatever,
like,
man.
Well, wait a minute. Maybe your God needs to blow you up. My God doesn't need me to blow up.
I think
I'm special. I
realistically,
get to be confetti.
I mean, we'll see what happens. All right, good night.
We'll
Get out of
see
the
what
way.
happens.
Good
We'll see you
night.
guys.
You're listening.
Sweet
We'll see you
dreams.
next time in Session 8, everybody. Make sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss it. And we'll see you next time on the next Tavern Talk.
Bye.